Hi everybody, welcome to this month's episode of Teachers at Work, and I am still Mzwandile Sikuni,
I am Kumbero Ramaru.
and this week we'll be discussing a very positive topic as we are going to be looking at teachers not only as just teachers in the classroom but also as role models within the learners and the community they serve.
Yeah, teachers are people that are in communities, and when they teach in the classrooms, children see them almost as parents. You know what I mean?
Yes, they see them almost as parents because they spend about 7 hours a day and 5 days a week, which is a lot of time. And in today's world, we know the mother is working, the father is working, so they eventually spend a lot of time with the teachers than they do with the parents. So I think eventually that is why they get to influence them as role models. Yeah.
And I think that is very true because a child mimics the behavior of an adult, and teachers are children. Teachers are adults that children interact with for several hours a day, and once they see what their teachers are doing, they also mimic
Want
it.
to do, yes.
Exactly what I
Yes,
mean.
yes,
You know
they also-
how you see the social interaction with the other children. Is that teacher fair to this child? How does the teacher teach forgiveness and all of those things? And they start to mimic such behavior. And then when they have teachers who, once they see conflict, they react abruptly, and that's the reaction they have.
Yes,
Kids see that and be like, okay, that's normal behavior.
So this is how I should also behave.
Exactly.
Yes,
You know
yes.
what I mean? No, that's
So today we're going to be looking at such things. How these teachers who have been seen to be very influential, what sort of behavior do they influence, and also many other things which they can be seen as positive and having a positive influence towards a child. Yes.
let's start with the program.
Teachers play a lot of roles at school, Kumbelo, wouldn't you say?
I do. I agree with that.
Yes,
They play numerous roles.
Yes, they play the role of local parentis and so on and so on. And amongst these roles, they eventually then become influencers to these kids. And because of that, good teachers eventually teach these learners not to be very much prejudiced. They teach them things of such as seeing people without color, for instance, no racism, and also no sexism. They don't teach them to say this sexist group is good or this sexist group. They teach them that they should treat each other equally and treat everybody equally. And that eventually, I think this is very good for teachers, and this is what eventually influence learners to eventually become good citizens in the community.
That's very true. I think the teachers focus mainly on the awareness of humanity.
Yes.
You know, making learners aware of their humanity in their relationship with others. You know, and this is a very good thing because even looking at the history of our country, right? The awareness of humanity is very important.
Very important.
Yeah, we need to acknowledge each others as equals, and also in this day and age with communities that are coming up, you know, different ways of living. We can't see ourselves as being too different.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. We need to acknowledge that, and that's where teachers eventually play a role in influencing these learners to see that, to say even though you come from this background and he or she comes from that background, it doesn't mean you are very much different because you are all South Africans and you are all part of the same nation.
That's very true.
Yes.
Yeah, and also looking at stuff like the issue of xenophobia.
Yes,
You know that we're becoming, the world is being globalized,
Yes,
you know,
it's-
and we're becoming accessible to areas and being able to travel quite easily. You know that we have people from African countries who come and try make a living here in South Africa and
Yes,
become.
it's true, and eventually they go to these schools. So it eventually becomes the teacher who has to tell the kids that this is not actually a foreign, even though he's a foreigner, but he's not as bad as what you hear on the streets. Because if you look at him, he's doing the same work you are doing and everything like that. So eventually, he's more of your brother than your enemy.
The teaching of brotherhood. And that's very important.
Yes, that's very important.
Some people can say that they're grateful to have met teachers that had a huge influence on their lives.
Yes,
For
that's
instance,
very true.
teachers who inspired learners to do more. And they can come back to a teacher and say, if you had not spoken those words to me, if you had not helped me extra with that subject, if you had not said words of encouragement, I wouldn't be where I am today because of you.
Yes, I think that's true, hey, because in most cases, these learners, you find that it just needs a little push just in a certain way. So when the teacher comes and say, you are now messing up when everybody else has given up on that child, I think that eventually helps that child to pick himself up and say, let me carry on going, I think.
That's true. Even teachers that take on extramural activities, those teachers create a whole holistic learning for children. And most importantly, they develop every effort of a child, even psychological influence, because they can motivate them to work harder, discover their talents, and think big.
And give them opportunities, because it doesn't mean that when they're just coaching that soccer, then it's just soccer. The child may see whatever influence the teacher is giving him on other aspects and eventually prosper in other aspects too, not just those extramurals and stuff. Yeah, I think teachers do play a very big role in this part.
I think one of the most interesting things I've seen, connected to our topic, is when you watch on the internet and a class maybe has a specific chant that they do together as a class, or different handshakes the teacher has with the learners, all these motivating things. And I think once you see those things, you're like, wow, this teacher is encouraging the learners, and the class feels together.
Yeah, they feel in touch. They feel like this is home. This is where they should be. And eventually, they get motivated to do more, I think.
That's true. So let's find out from people at home. Please tell us, do you have a teacher that's inspired you? Put in the comment section, and then we can discuss, off video.
Maybe we could even talk with that teacher, and maybe she could also inspire other teachers to also do more in encouraging these learners.
That's true.
Save yourselves, Kumbero. Nagena Simon Musimane Kape Masuke from Mawopani. Nale aus Kumbero Rebulela ka impact teachers on our daily social lives. No, teachers, according to me, teachers by Dala Rulia. Some of them are by Dali. Only teachers who are Mori Botons are the NGOs. Only teachers study Sefa Mo, dealing them with Botons are the creche, babaling active remote or not. Only teachers study offer and the teacher for free to kids where Manawa and Bata willing to offer the teacher. So I think some, but the by Dala Patabona, but we need more. We need more teachers or whatever, but to say Babalinting or whatever impact the econ over Halapi. Because Babamba by Daliru, Babamba teachers all about Tapelwa, Rababona, Babamba teachers tell us how abusavana, Mara Overcacavana. Yeah. Get my aunt, he used to be a principal at Sundaily Primary School. She used to be a principal there. Yeah, but no retiring. Yeah.
Okay, and what impact does she play in your life?
Well, who assist teacher study material, advice, the get to a metric university level, advice or course, so in a brother and then consultant, and I was a teacher back then. So yeah, can I hanore by the teacher development in community.
Teachers play many roles within their profession, and one of the roles that they play is the role of being a parent, which is known as loco parentis. Within this role, this is where most teachers get to have an influence within the learners that they teach. This role eventually means that the teachers act as parents, and as we all know, a parent will want to do almost anything to make sure that their kids succeed in life. And teachers who usually take this role seriously, they eventually become dedicated in assisting these kids, not only in the work that they do with them in class, but also in other activities which they do outside of the classroom. And with this one, they eventually also influence these kids to also become very dedicated and become motivated in achieving their dreams. And this eventually plays a major influence on these kids and how they develop. And not only do they get to influence these children through how they dedicated to them, but also their behavior within how they treat the children eventually also influence how the children will view them, and eventually feel free to try and get more influence or more assistance from these teachers. And also things such as a dress code play also a major role, because if you're trying to teach a young child to wear something, to do something, you need to also show them how to do it. As you know the saying, monkey see, monkey do. If the kids see the teacher not doing or following the laws, then the children are more likely to not follow laws. But once they have that teacher which eventually influence them to follow laws, doing things such as being on school in time and always attending classes and always keeping up to date with whatever issues that they have, and also most importantly how they dress up. Because once the learners see that the teacher is dressing up in a professional manner, then they will be more influenced to also dress up as school children, which will eventually, in the later run, also influence them to become more disciplined.
Teachers play an important role in society, and every learner who has been through the educational system can have a wonderful story about one teacher that motivated them to be who they are today. Let's take, for instance, the holistic learning of a child includes social and emotional development. These are things that teachers pour out into, because if teachers cannot themselves be well-rounded emotionally and have social development and treat learners equally, learners then learn how to be the best they can be in society. It is safe to say that here we are as teachers. We believe that we can make a difference, and it is up to us to bring change into the society and also bring change into the learners that we teach. So here's a few clips from teachers who are there making a difference, such as some of us.
Tell us about yourself, who you are and stuff, yeah, and what you do.
Okay, my name is Mandi Sandava. I'm an educator, have been in the profession for the past 5 years. I've recently completed my honors degree in education, teacher education and development. Besides teaching, I have other projects that I work on, one of which I do mentorship for young people, particularly people that have just completed matric and people who are still in school. It is still under construction, but I'm already working on that. On a full-time basis, I'm an educator. I teach from 7 to afternoon, to after school. That is like 2:30 every day. And that's basically it about me for now. I'm a very passionate teacher. I love what I do. I believe that teachers are called, and I believe that teachers are a necessity to the community and to the world at large. I think one of the most thing that influenced my decision to become a teacher was that it gave me great pleasure knowing that I could also change someone's life the way that my life was changed. I am a teacher so that I can be able to influence. I believe that teachers have influence. I believe that teachers have a lot of impact, and teachers are great leaders. This can be debatable, but I took on this profession so that I could be able to stand in front of learners, to be able to share what I know about the world, to have my knowledge and the little that I have imparted onto another person. In this case, in the classroom with my learners, and I call them my learners because they've become a part of me and a part of my life. In the 5 years, there's definitely been a bit of both, but my worst moments, I think, would be having to, when children leave the school or when you are not teaching them again, it's almost as if a part of you, or you're missing a little piece of the puzzle to the end. But at the same time, it must happen because we are not here to adopt or to take these children to be ours. We are there for that particular moment. So one of the worst moments is that, and having seeing learners that are actually trying to give it their best and do their best to learn, to understand the content, and to do their work, but at the end of the day, not being able to deliver. I think that is one of my worst moments. But my best moments is definitely seeing my children or seeing the learners that I've taught or children that are in my school or in the schools that I've taught it succeeding and achieving their goals and reaching their dreams. And I want to speak particularly about some of the learners that I taught. This was, I think, 3 years back when I had started, just after I started teaching. In the second year of my teaching, I went and I taught grade 12. So these children did exceptionally well. My school that year got an award for English in the cluster, which is a very good thing to look at. And these two people that I speak of, it's the boys that I've taken as mine. I've mentored them, they've completed their degrees, and one of them is actually working on his honors in actual sciences. So I look at him and I look at other people that I've met on the way, and I know that I'm in the right profession. And maybe this is exactly why I find myself with a chalk and going around the school campuses, even when sometimes you feel like you should be somewhere else. There really is so much that can be done by all those stakeholders. I think for education to be where everyone imagines it to be, we all need to play a role in contributing to that. And in all honesty, not everyone has reached that level. And this is the same for everyone, the teacher, the government, the community, and other people that you make mention of. So not really, there's not enough. There's so much more that needs to be done to answer that question. One is taking responsibility. I think as teachers, we need to be in a place where we take responsibility. We do what we have to do. The community, that is the parents and the learners, must also play their role. They need to get to a point where what needs their attention, they can attend to it. And they do it the best way possible. So it really is about the ability to take responsibility for your actions, to take responsibility as a parent, send your child to school, assist and support your child wherever possible or wherever needed. And most importantly, it is the government, definitely. We have our government that has laws in place, that has everything that looks beautiful on paper, but sometimes the implementation becomes too difficult. So maybe we need now the government, or we need the education system or the education department in its entirety to put themselves in a position of a teacher and think about how they would have done it under the circumstances that we find ourselves in schools. And I want to speak particularly about law that speaks up on educators. And a number of times there's law that protects children. We know that children are not supposed to be, they must be treated with inhuman dignity and. But if we look at all these things and the role of a local parent, local parents and for children, what then happens to educators? Maybe the way that educators behave or the way they deal with issues to a certain degree is because there's not much law that is protecting them. And then maybe if the Department of Education can come and amend and add some of the laws and speak directly to how teachers can be protected, how teachers can be able to deliver some of the important things that we must deliver. And I look for an example, we've got the ratio of 1:30, I'm not sure if it's 35 or 30. That is what the law says. But if you come to schools and townships, we've got learners, or we've got classes that have up to 80 learners. And as an educator, you're expected to deliver, you're expected not to be frustrated, you're expected to be excellent in your work. But if the opposite is true, the teacher is suspended or something happens to an educator. So maybe we need to fix and look at our laws and do something about that.
That's all. Is there anything you'd like to add, maybe?
Well, not much, but all I can say is that there's hope for South Africa, there's hope for our nation, There's hope for children, there's hope for teachers, and there's hope for the government. All what we need to do is take responsibility, do what needs to be done, and then our work will speak on our behalf. And with that said, to the learners that are at home because of COVID and are enjoying home, I would not advise you to be home and enjoy much. We had enough time to rest. Now maybe it's time for you to look at your books. To the teachers that are enjoying the breaks, it's good, it's much needed, but we are back. Let's do what we need to do. And to the government, if you're watching, please honor us as educators the best way we deserve and the best way we know how. Because there really is a lot of work that we put in, and there's a lot of factors that we have to deal with.
So, Mzwa, is it safe to say that teachers are good role models in society?
From what I've seen and with the teachers that we've just interviewed now, I think it is safe to say that the teachers are actually doing a very good job in influencing our community. And this in turn helps the learners to eventually become and realize their full potential. So I'd say that the teachers are actually doing a very good job at school.
I agree with you. We have seen great teachers who have had great influence on all of us. And it is safe to say from us at the Bridge Teachers at Work that we are doing a mighty good job.
Yes, and before we just close this, I would also like to give acknowledgements to one of my history teachers who also inspired me to become a history teacher myself, Mr. Nkosi, who unfortunately has passed away. May his soul rest in peace. But I'd like to say to that teacher, even though he may not hear me, thank you for the way that you've shown me, sir.
That's great. And also myself, I'd like to thank Mrs. Kruger from Proarte Alphen Park. That was my high school. And she had great influence on me. Hence, I am an English teacher today.
Okay, cool. So guys, you can still keeping watching our shows, but for today, for this month, we would like to say cheers, and we'll see you again when we bring the new episode.
Okay, guys, subscribe, like the button. Mwah.
Cheers. Yeah.